What do you do?
My name is Michael O'Flaherty and I'm Director of the European Union Fundamental Rights Agency. That's the EU body that helps the EU to respect human rights and avoid violating them in the first place.
What drove you into this field?
I've worked in human rights pretty much all of my life. For me personally, it's about being useful, making a difference. I think the human rights system that we've built so carefully since the Second World War is astonishing. It's the guarantor against tyranny. It's always under threat, it's always under risk, but it's the best hope that humanity has for civilized living with each other.
What is your greatest source of energy?
My greatest source of energy is working with understanding people, empathizing with people, getting angry on their behalf. Gives me the energy to do my job. And then sharing in the celebration of an achievement. Somebody who gets out of jail, somebody who gets treated with equality, with respect and dignity, some child that's given a chance in life. That gives great joy and the energy to get up the next morning.
What was your most impressive childhood experience?
That brings me back a long way. I think it was with my father. It was when I was, maybe I was 5 or 6, and I was toying with a little insect. It was a fly. I remember, and I don't know what I was doing, whatever a little child does to an insect. And my father was very angry with me, and he immediately made me stop. And he said, if you do that to a fly now, what will you do to another person when you're an adult? I've never forgotten that.
What is the best advice you've received?
Be useful. Be useful. It's a value in my family again. It's the measure by which we were assessed as children. They were more or less the last words I would have received from my father before he died. Be useful. Contribute to society. Don't focus your energy on getting rich. Focus on somehow making in your way a contribution to society, becoming that little bit more fair, that little bit less me-focused.
If it's not the same, what is the best advice you can give?
My advice would be true. Be true to yourself. Figure out what at the heart is who you are and what you want to do in your life, and stick with it. I think my generation didn't always have the courage to be free in that sense. Convention, to a large extent, determined the choices we made. I would hope that if anybody was asking my advice now, that I would be able to tell them to get past that and to make those choices that speak to who you are.
What would you like to achieve in this lifetime?
Well, I said earlier that the goal for me is to be useful, and if at the end of it all somebody says he was useful, that'll be fine.
What brings us together?
What brings us together is our common humanity, and that's fundamentally good. I've worked in some of the nastiest places on earth. I've lived through the war in Sierra Leone, the conflict in Bosnia. I've been elsewhere, Afghanistan, East Timor. And everywhere I've been, I've seen the goodness and the decency in people. I've even seen it in the so-called bad people. There's a golden thread of humanity in there, and it's our job to capture it, bring it out, and on that basis build stronger societies.
What makes us human?
What it means to be human is to be alive, and that's not a cliche. It's to be alive, to be engaged, to be active with your world. It's to be community. It's to be with others. It's not about solitude. It never is. We do the best. We achieve the most. We're the most fulfilled when we're with others, when we're in and building stronger communities.
What is the most courageous decision you've made?
I don't know. I think it's probably a decision best made by others. Courage is a strange thing. I've done things which would nominally be perceived to be brave. When you go through them, you don't think of things of that kind. At the time you do it because you had to do it, or you saw that it was the only thing to do, or it was the unavoidably correct thing to do. So it required very little courage. The courage, I think, comes actually in the much more banal, private things of your life, in how you behave within your family, the extent to which you're able to say sorry for your mistakes. They require the real courage, I think.
What is your strongest conviction?
Humanity. My strongest conviction is in the fundamental goodness of this human race of ours. We get lost so often, we go down crazy routes, we do appalling things. But if we lose a sense that we can be saved from these baser instincts, that we can actually build wonderful societies and communities together, we must never lose a sense of that. And I'm absolutely convinced that it's not just some pipe dream of mine, but it's actually the reality of who we are and why we're here.
What does home mean to you?
Home, I've changed my physical home so many times in my life. It's not about bricks and mortar. I'm Irish, and for the Irish, home is always the place we were born. We never refer to it as anything other than home. But more seriously, home is where I'm at peace. Home is where I'm with those that I love and that love me, and where I'm being useful, to come back to a term that I used right at the beginning of this interview.
What role does spirituality play in your life?
Plays a large role in my life. It's an increasingly unspecified role in terms of what it actually means to me. I have a sense that we're here for a purpose, that we're part of some bigger scheme. I can't claim to know what that scheme is, but I find that when times get tough and when I need tranquility and I need to make the right decision around really fundamental matters, that going away and in some sense engaging with this spirit world helps me to find the path, not necessarily the right one, but to find some direction. Whether you could term that as religious today, in my life today, I don't know. What I do see is that my engagement with issues of spirituality, religion, faith change over time. And where they'll be in 10 years, I have no idea. But I know that whatever this element is, it'll remain important for me.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm a human being.
What's your name? And if you know, what does it mean?
My name is Michael, and if I recall correctly, it means beloved of God. It's a biblical name, but that's not the reason I have it. I have it because every male in my family seems to be called Michael.